Thank you for your interest in developing a plan for school vitality in the Diocese of Grand Rapids. Our graphic for this project demonstrates our belief that Catholic schools are a mighty bridge for passing on the faith to future generations of leaders. This presentation is organized into 3 sections. The first will provide both the context for and the scope of our planning process. The second will highlight the return on a Catholic school investment from a spiritual, academic, and financial standpoint. We will identify current challenges and some of the creative solutions being implemented. And we will highlight growth potential for Catholic schools in the future. Finally, we'll give you an opportunity to review the emerging strategic priorities and provide your feedback. Why plan now, you may ask? You may be aware that we are currently in year 1 of the Bishop's Catholic Schools Initiative, a 3-year, 3-part initiative designed to increase affordability through scholarships, grow professional capacity in the Office of Catholic Schools, and plan for the future vitality of Catholic schools. Bishop Walkowiak has committed $3 million, $1 million a year, over the 3 years of the initiative, and these dollars have already proven to have a dramatic impact on the growth of Catholic schools. During this first year of the initiative, we saw the first overall increase in Catholic school enrollment in 15 years. We need to plan now to sustain these efforts in years 4, 5, 6, and beyond. So everyone asks, how does this diocesan strategic plan for schools fit with individual school and parish strategic plan? This is a very important question. Strategic plans by their very nature are intended to be both organic and dynamic. As a result, the diocesan plan for schools should inform local strategic plans, and local plans should likewise inform the diocesan school strategic plan. The relationship between the two should create a dynamic interplay that ultimately causes each plan to be more effective and relevant. Bishop Walkowiak is an enthusiastic supporter of Catholic schools. After just 2 months on the job, he addressed all school leaders and teachers with this statement: Catholic schools are the single most effective means the Church has created for evangelization. Because Catholic schools are the most effective means of evangelization, Bishop Walkowiak invites everyone to come together through this strategic planning process to consider innovative and collaborative ways to expand and strengthen Catholic school ministry in our diocese. Our mission is to build an alliance of schools where the reality of Christ and an encounter with Him illuminates every lesson in learning and in life. And our vision is to expand that ministry to reach more families every year. There is an urgency about this work because our world needs our graduates more and more every day, and the future vitality and leadership of the Catholic Church will largely depend upon our graduates. Because this work is urgent, we're going to tackle this planning process using an aggressive timeline. The process includes 3 rounds of meetings with our stakeholders and the greater Catholic community to gather input about our Catholic schools and how they may better serve the youth of the diocese. Round 1, this winter and spring, are community forum meetings targeted to each deanery. Round 2 will take place in the summer, fall, and winter of this year. At these meetings, we'll release a preliminary draft of the strategic plan and solicit feedback. Round 3 will be in the winter and spring of 2017. At that time, we'll bring decision makers together to plan for implementation. This timeline puts us on track to begin implementation during the final school year of the Bishop's 3-year Catholic Schools Initiative, 2017-18. In years 4, 5, 6, and beyond, we can then sustain these important initiatives and begin to address many more enhancements to the ministry of Catholic schools. Did you know that our diocese is made up of 11 counties and is currently divided into 5 deaneries: North, South, East, West, and Grand Rapids? We'll conduct several sessions in all 5 deaneries during each of the 3 rounds of the planning process. Here you can see the number of schools and number of enrolled school students in each of the deaneries. There are 11 schools in the Grand Rapids deanery, 8 elementary and 3 high schools, with a total enrollment of 2,810 students. This represents 51% of our total enrollment. There are 8 schools in the East deanery, 7 elementary and 1 high school. With a total enrollment of 1,191 students, this represents 21% of our total enrollment. There are 5 schools in the West deanery, 4 elementary and 1 high school. With a total enrollment of 747 students, this represents 13% of our total enrollment. There are 3 schools in the North deanery, all elementary, with a total enrollment of 251 students, or 5% of our total enrollment. And there are 3 schools in the South deanery, again all elementary, with a total enrollment of 551 students, or 10% of our total enrollment. Catholic schools are an extraordinary investment. If you had a financial investment that outperformed in the market by 25% last year, or perhaps you replaced the windows in your home and you saved 25% on your utility bill, I'd imagine you'd be quite happy about that. You may even want to share the good news. Well, Catholic schools are a clear outperformer in their market. It can be difficult to quantify the value of the Catholic education in this way. Therefore, in this next group of slides, we've translated the value of a Catholic education into a demonstration of the return on investment, or ROI. We've done this from 3 vantage points: spiritual returns, academic returns, and financial returns. We're confident that you'll want to share this good news and hope, indeed encourage, that you do just that. Partnering with parents, Catholic schools are hands down the best way for us to ensure that young people will continue to practice their faith. Simply said, those who attended Catholic schools are 4 times more likely to be attending church at age 45, 3 times more likely to be confirmed, 2 times more likely to be married in a church, and a plethora of studies all point to the fact that our kids are more likely to be generous as adults. Don't we all want these returns for the next generation of Catholics? Take a moment to read these consistent conclusions from the research. Again, ask yourself this question: don't we all want these outcomes or returns for the next generation of Catholics? I contend that these outcomes follow years of education where Christ is our model. Jesus said, "This is my commandment, love one another as I have loved you. No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you. This I command you, love one another." The Catholic worldview and sacramental life permeates our schools and the interactions within them. All schools celebrate Mass as a community, engage in service projects, and celebrate and encourage being Christ-like to one another. Our Catholic faith is the beginning point and lens through which we view all content areas, bringing faith to life every day in the classroom. Our teachers have dedicated space in their classrooms for prayer and religious iconography that serve as a constant reminder of the Catholic school difference. Our schools are committed to helping students understand what Jesus meant when he said, "Pick up your cross and follow me." Take a moment to think about some general Mass attendance trends. 2014 research from the Center for Applied Research in the Apostolate, or CARA, indicates that Sunday Mass attendance has been on the decline over the past 50 years, with currently only about 24% of Catholics attending Mass every Sunday. Now consider the impact of Catholic schools on Mass attendance. As you can see from this table, there's a dramatic difference in the frequency of Mass attendance between those who went to Catholic primary or secondary schools and their non-Catholic school counterparts. Knowing this, growth in Catholic school enrollment, then, is an important element in growing Mass attendance in the future. Catholic schools have a strong track record of encouraging religious vocations to the priesthood and religious life. Strong and growing Catholic school enrollment is a proven path to strong and growing seminaries and convents. Imagine for a moment the contributions of the religious women and men who have dedicated their lives to building and operating some of the world's finest churches, schools, hospitals, missions, and more. Who will dedicate their lives to this work, and more importantly, insist that these institutions are available to the poor and most vulnerable among us? Yes, the lay faithful have been called and gifted for ministry and leadership within the Church, but the strength of our continued Catholic identity and the sacramental life of the Church cannot be sustained without strong and growing numbers of women and men willing to give their lives in service to the Church. As you can see on this slide, men and women who've attended Catholic schools have a much greater likelihood of considering a religious vocation. Strong Catholic school enrollment is, once again, an important element in the antidote to the current shortages that we're experiencing. Catholic elementary schools are tight-knit communities where families and students live in close proximity. Unlike large public schools, where students may only be in the same class for 1 hour, semester, or year, our students and families are often together for a decade. Students must learn to work through their difficulties rather than simply change classes or wait for next year. Perseverance in community is a valuable skill that will certainly be needed in marriage and family life, as well as employment. Once again, from John 15:13, "No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends." If students have been taught to emulate their model, Jesus, it's no wonder our kids have such a powerful influence on others. Because of their eternal nature, there is literally no end to the spiritual returns on a Catholic school investment. But let's turn now to the academic returns. Our students consistently outperform local, state, and national peers on standardized tests. This is a well-established fact, and our schools are often too modest about their performance. Even the media are generally careful about not publishing our scores side by side with our public school counterparts. Anecdotally, in our rural schools where Catholic high school is not accessible, it is typical for K-8 graduates to be academically outstanding and well-respected when they transition into their local public high school. A high percentage of our students will be among the academic top 10 and are very often found in positions of leadership and service. Our students are not only academically successful, they are also well-liked among their peers. Of particular note is the consistently improving diocesan average throughout elementary school, and in an even more profound way by the end of middle school, as compared to the national average at the 50th percentile on this graph. This is based upon the data from our 2015 Measure of Academic Progress, or MAP, scores. It's worth noting that this has been the case consistently over the years. Father Nuzzi of the University of Notre Dame fondly calls this the Catholic school effect, claiming that the longer a student remains in a Catholic school, the greater the likelihood for academic success and performance above the norm. Our Catholic high schools collectively are considered a district by the College Board. As such, we're one of only 15 districts on the 2016 College Board AP Honor Roll, and this is our second consecutive year on the Honor Roll. To be named to this honor roll is no easy achievement, as only 2.7% of all districts in Michigan made it. The honor roll requires that schools increase participation in or access to AP courses, increase or maintain the percentage of exams taken by minority students, and improve or maintain performance levels when comparing the percentage of students in 2015 scoring a 3 or higher on the AP exam to those who took it in 2013. In addition to a tradition of maintaining high academic standards, our schools have remained committed over the years to providing rich co-curricular opportunities, including the visual and performing arts, as well as athletics. These are critical to the development of the whole child, which is a hallmark of Catholic school education and Catholic intellectual tradition. And it has been well documented that the visual and performing arts support the learning of core academic disciplines. These national graduation rates speak for themselves and further demonstrate the academic return on a Catholic school investment. Catholic schools boast a 99% graduation rate. National college attendance rates are even more striking. Catholic schools stand far above other schooling options, even more religious and private schools. Keep in mind, when looking at this chart, that charter schools are public schools, and here in the Diocese of Grand Rapids, our combined 2-year and 4-year college attendance rate is 97%. If you look at this slide through the eyes of faith, Jesus Christ makes a difference in our schools. Students who have been taught in school to pick up your cross and follow me, and that my grace is sufficient for you, by the one whom they have encountered personally, Jesus, have good reason to persevere in their studies, and they also have the supernatural grace that is necessary. This is the Catholic school difference. Okay, let's get practical and look at the financial return on a Catholic school investment. Collectively, Catholic schools save the nation more than $24 billion per year. I've heard it said that if all Catholic school students were to enroll in a public school, it would bankrupt the nation's public schools. We see this financial turmoil in many school districts and know that declining private schools and growing public charter school enrollment are contributing factors. On a more local level, this past year alone, our graduates accepted more than $8 million in college scholarships, which is, on average, more than $20,000 per student per year. These are real dollars that allow our Catholic school students more freedom in selecting the college of their choice and reduce dependence on student loans. Research on measuring the effect of school choice on economic outcomes shows that Catholic high school graduates earn 13.6% more than their public and even other private school counterparts. It is worth noting here that the research was unable to find a measurable impact of any other school type on economic outcomes, even including other types of private schools. To illustrate the impact of this research, we did the math. Using the National Association of Colleges and Employers 2014 average starting salary of $48,707, Again, that's a national average across all professions. Factoring in a 13.6% multiplier, assuming annual raises of 2% throughout the duration of a career until the age of 65, a Catholic school graduate's lifetime earnings will equate to $3.7 million, compared to $3.2 million for graduates of other private and public schools. Not only will a Catholic education pay for itself by age 31, but it will also pay nearly $500,000 over the course of a career. Who wouldn't want to increase their child's ability to make an extra $500,000 throughout their career? I think the real question here is, can we afford not to give children a Catholic education, especially having now considered the value and return on the investment from a spiritual, academic, and financial perspective? Can we afford not to give all Catholic children a Catholic education? That's a lot of data about the return on a Catholic school investment. So, if you don't remember anything else, remember these three things. Our Catholic school students are more likely to practice their faith, do better in school, and make and give more money. Hopefully it's clear by now that the value or return on a Catholic school education is immense, if not unmatched. However, we know that our schools and Catholic schools across the country also face some significant challenges and have for years. Let's review a couple of our most prominent challenges, by no means an exhaustive list, and some creative solutions currently being employed or implemented across the diocese. Managing costs for families while striving to serve the needs of every child is an ongoing dilemma, but one our school leaders and staffs are called to because there's a greater purpose in what we're delivering. Let's first take a look at cost, or affordability. Affordability is in quotes because it's a relative term. The best way to justify a cost is the value received in return, not just the perceived ability to afford the good or service. While our families make a significant investment, our schools are actually offered at a fairly large discount from the actual cost. On average, families pay 52% of the cost to educate an elementary school student and 68% of the cost to educate a high school student. And that's before any scholarship dollars are applied. The remainder of cost is made up from parish support, mainly from parishes with schools, and development efforts. How can we create a win-win for schools, parishes, and families, enabling us to continue providing a best-in-class faith-based education on one end, yet managing the cost to families on the other? Another challenge is the immense workload that falls upon our pastors and principals. We know this anecdotally and from research, including 2 recent studies by the University of Notre Dame, a study of U.S. pastors and a companion study of Catholic elementary school principals. From facility management to finance to curriculum planning to marketing, the positions require an expansive skill set. We consider pastors and principals our modern-day Renaissance men and women. But how can we make their work more manageable and allow them to focus on the highest priority tasks for their respective roles? Another challenge is serving the diverse learning needs of our students. Within our Catholic schools, over 9% of our students have an identified learning need and are currently being served. Collectively, our schools provide support for 13 different special needs, from autism to hearing impairment to language and cognitive impairments. Knowing that students with identified learning needs typically require additional resources and support, how can we efficiently manage resources to meet the needs of a growing number of students with special needs? Now let's go over some creative solutions, some of which have already been implemented. Dioceses all over the country are trying innovative financial models as they recognize the responsibility of high-quality, affordable, and accessible school education belongs to all Catholics. We too need to be bold in finding innovative ways for all Catholics to invest in the promise that Catholic schools represent to the future of the Church and also to the common good. While our high schools tend to have development professionals and programs in place, very few of our elementary schools have formal efforts underway, leaving their primary funding sources to tuition and parish support. Instituting quality, well-led development programs at our elementary schools is essential. It will help balance the mix of funding sources and ideally generate the capital to impact and grow school programming and resources, rather than merely covering costs. According to the Center on Wealth and Philanthropy at Boston College, nearly $60 trillion in U.S. wealth will change hands over the next 55 years. What does that mean for our schools? Not only do they need to nurture the current donor base of today, but they need to have long-term plans in place as a new generation of philanthropists arise. Another creative solution is customizing the governance and instructional models that our schools employ. For instance, we have a large concentration of traditional parish schools, and our data shows that parish schools enroll the largest percentage of baptized children within the parish. We have interparish schools, such as San Juan Diego Academy, Corpus Christi, and All Saints Academy, to increase reach across multiple parish communities. We have winged satellite schools, such as Divine Providence Academy at St. Joseph and St. Catherine, that utilize blended learning techniques across multiple campuses to leverage administrative efficiencies and maintain viability in small rural communities. In addition, we have a variety of instructional models, including part-time enrollment, Montessori, Spanish immersion, classical education, and multi-age instruction, just to name a few. No matter the approach, our schools need the ability to adapt to the communities they serve and implement instructional models that maximize learning. Next, our schools leverage several innovative partnerships with professional and higher learning organizations. Aquinas College partners with many of our high schools to offer dual enrollment courses on our high school campuses. This provides college credits and new courses for high school students, which saves thousands of dollars for families. University of Detroit Mercy Nursing Internship Program provides community health services and education for our students and families in select schools. Van Andel Education Institute and Xavier University provide professional development opportunities for our teachers. Consistent with our vision for building an alliance of Catholic schools is our desire to standardize certain practices. Through the Bishop's Catholic Schools Initiative, we have standardized best practices in admissions and enrollment, marketing, communications, and athletics. Potential standardized best practices in the future could include development, finance, technology support, and human resources. Of course, efficiency is an immediate outgrowth of standardizing select services, delivering leadership and service that is professional and consistent, and cost that is reduced at the local school and parish level. In order to be good stewards of the gift of Catholic schools, accountability and measurement are essential, and we've made great strides through the systems we deploy. Efficiencies have been created through tools in financial management, enrollment, marketing, tuition management, and student information. We utilize common assessment tools for our accreditation process, program effectiveness surveys, and school board assessments. All of these systems have helped us deliver a more professional product, measure our effectiveness, and be accountable for the legacy of Catholic education that has been handed down to us by past generations for the building of God's kingdom. Next, let's consider the immense growth potential for our schools. We can grow, and we will grow. There's a high demand for private schools. According to a study on school choice by the Friedman Center, 40% of Americans would have chosen a private school as their first option if no barriers existed. However, only 9% actually did, leading to a gap of 31%. For public schools, it was almost the opposite. Only 37% saw it as their first choice, yet an overwhelming 87% actually chose it. Clearly, there is an unfulfilled demand for private school education. We need to do a better job of nurturing the decision-making process and removing any and all barriers where we can. Within our diocese, there are currently over 41,000 school-age children who were baptized Catholic, but only about 15% of them attend one of our schools, leaving over 36,000 as potential Catholic school students. We also estimate that about 40% of the 41,000 baptized Catholic children are currently engaged Catholics, meaning they either attend a Catholic school or participate in a parish religious education program. Of that 40%, or 16,400, the Grand Rapids Deanery enrolls the highest percentage of engaged Catholics into their schools at 57%. In fact, they're the only deanery that enrolls more students in their Catholic schools than in their religious education programs. We realize that some families choose another schooling option for their children. However, a great portion simply do not have geographical access to one of our schools. For example, there are 11 rural parishes within the North Deanery that have no access to one of our schools. Together, they represent over 420 children in religious education, and several have enough potential students to consider a New Wings satellite model Catholic school. In addition, several suburban communities in southeast and southwest Greater Grand Rapids may have sufficient population and proximity to consider centrally locating a school. In southeast Greater Grand Rapids, there are 3 parishes that have over 1,500 religious education participants combined. In southwest Greater Grand Rapids, another set of 3 parishes have over 1,100 combined. Within the past 5 years, we have seen tremendous growth in the diversity of our enrollment. Overall, our diversity has increased to 20%, largely driven by an increase in our Hispanic enrollment. However, we know we still have room to improve. There's a rapidly growing Hispanic presence in a number of our parishes, and we look forward to welcoming these families into our schools. We're currently implementing efforts to expand that welcome and to ensure responsiveness to all of our students and families. Specifically, we have launched targeted efforts to reach one of our largest historically underserved populations, Hispanic families. Not only are they the fastest growing segment of the U.S. population, but 70% of practicing Catholics under the age of 35 are Hispanic. That's 7 out of every 10 practicing Catholics. Yet only 3% of school-aged Hispanic children are enrolled in a Catholic school. Catholic schools are uniquely able to break down the persistent academic achievement gap Hispanic students face. When Hispanic students attend a Catholic school, they are 42% more likely to graduate from high school and 2.5 times more likely to graduate from college. Diocesan data shows that Catholic schools can be a sustaining force in a parish community. Between 2010 and 2014, our parishes with schools retained a much greater percentage of their membership compared to our parishes without schools. The Bishop's Catholic Schools Initiative has supported individual school growth efforts and helped to plant a stake in the ground for the next 3 years. As previously mentioned, this year, 2015-16, we had our first preschool through 12th grade enrollment increase in over 15 years, matched with our first kindergarten through 12th grade growth in 18 years and our largest preschool class in 10 years. We have some exciting momentum behind our schools, and we plan to keep it going. But we need your help to strengthen and sustain these efforts. Your input and feedback is critical as we move forward together to increase our Catholic school vitality. Before you move on, please take a few minutes to reflect on and process the information you've just received. Perhaps click back through some of the slides. What did you find most surprising? What do you see as the greatest challenges? And what are the greatest opportunities? During this final section, we'll reiterate our mission and vision and present the emerging strategic priorities that are guiding this planning effort. You'll then be able to participate in a short online survey regarding the strategic planning process to share your insights. Keeping in mind our mission and vision and the information that we shared today, our emerging strategic priorities fall into 4 categories: Catholic culture and mission, programmatic excellence, affordability and accessibility, and stewardship and sustainability. As you read through them on the following slides, consider how they resonate with you. What's your initial impression? What are you particularly glad to see? And what's still missing? Under Catholic culture and mission, we aim to increase the number of Catholic children enrolled in our schools, appreciate and strengthen the value of existing schools, nurture in each student a deeper relationship with Jesus, strengthen diocesan approach to Catholic school curriculum development, promote the active engagement of all students and families in parish life, and support programs to increase vocations to the priesthood and religious life. Within programmatic excellence, the strategic priorities are to improve collaboration and transparency through continuous strategic planning, grow leadership capacity within our school staff and boards, consider new governance models to address unique circumstances, enhance curricular and co-curricular opportunities, consider the needs of school facilities for 21st century learning, and improve the perception of the value of our schools. Within affordability and accessibility, the emerging priorities are to increase available scholarship funds, explore the feasibility of launching new and additional schools, grow development, advancement, and fundraising capacity at all levels, include and support students with a broad range of learning needs, welcome families of diverse cultural heritage, and raise cultural awareness to support an increasingly diverse population. And under stewardship and sustainability, the emerging priorities are to examine and propose more sustainable revenue models, identify administrative best practices to increase efficiency, implement shared services to reduce administrative workload, Build in accountability and measurement to ensure transparency and impact. Aim to create classrooms with the optimal average class size, and increase teacher compensation. These are the emerging strategic priorities that we have identified so far. Now, we need your feedback. With your help, we're excited about the possibilities this process will reveal. When the video is completed, follow this link to complete the survey and give feedback. If you'd like updates on the process, sign up to receive text message alerts. Text OCSInfoEN to 84483 to receive alerts in English, or OCSInfoEST to 84483 for alerts in Spanish. If you have specific questions, feel free to contact the committee at info@dogrschools.org. And we encourage you to spread the word to family and friends. Invite them to a local meeting or have them visit catholicschoolsforyou.org for the complete details and to participate in the survey. Thank you so much for participating in Round 1 of this important Catholic Schools planning process. Look for more information about Round 2 coming up next fall. At that time, we'd like to hear your feedback on the draft Catholic Schools Bridging Faith and Future plan. Many blessings to you, and thank you again.